Welcome to The Better Life with Dr. Mariane Pinkston. Join Dr. Pinkston today as she teaches you how an integrative approach to health, combining holistic and contemporary medical information, can lead you to the better life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Mariane Pinkston.
Good morning, everybody. I am so happy to be back talking to you this morning and bringing you another fantastic guest, my friend, Laura LaValle, who is a registered and licensed dietitian. She and I are going to slam keto diets this morning and talk more about gut health, which I've been talking about in the last couple of weeks. But before we jump in, sorry, Laura, let me break for just a second. I want to give everybody the website where you can go and find all of the platforms for YouTube and for the podcasts. And every Sunday at 4 p.m., you can find me on 9:30 a.m. The Answer at 4 p.m. And Laura, good morning. It's nice to see you.
Good to see you, Marianne.
Happy Monday. It's been Monday all morning.
Thank you.
So how, things are fantastic. I am so happy to have you on. I saw you speak in Vegas. And of course, I've known you a little while now, but I saw you speak for the first time in Vegas. And I was absolutely floored. I think you and I are twins from another lifetime. I absolutely love your approach to nutrition and diets and everything. So I am so honored to have you on today.
Thank you, Marianne. Thanks so much. I've really found you don't need too much of the crazy extreme, although I think when we ask people to eat by some of our guidelines in our diet that we do for our practice, they look at me like I'm crazy, but it's actually, using common everyday foods you can get from your grocery store. You don't have to find a raw vegan chef to cook for you. You know what I mean? Yes. It's pretty easy. It's some slight tweaks, really. And so I do have some people that'll come and say, wow, I can do this, Yes. And I think it's because they've been through every crazy diet in the world. Yes. And they always keep coming. But, I get to where I am with this keto diet from experience because, ketogenic diets have some benefits. And we were using pretty close to a ketogenic diet for a while. Yeah. But we do have some after effect, and those are not fun. No. And they can actually be really horrendous.
Detrimental.
We'll get into all that. Yes. I've had some people get very ill from them, and we'll explain.
We were speaking a little bit before about how we're always looking to the next diet craze. What's the new fad? And, I think to me, it's more of a money-making scheme rather than really caring about what people are eating or doing, trying to lose weight, trying to be healthy when
it is.
We really have all the rules for free in place, right?
Yeah, and people with absolutely no background in healthcare that read a little bit and think they've gotten onto something.
Yes.
And you like I said, ketogenic diets, you'll lose weight. Most people will lose weight. You'll get better control of blood sugar. But you really have to guard against some, it really can mess up your immune system and your gut. So That's where it gets really dicey, to say the least.
Right. Yeah. And I've always felt like you burn more muscle off, honestly, than fat because of the quick loss of weight. And the derangement.
That's exactly right.
Right. The derangement of percentages of protein, fat, and carbs, it just, your body is just, it's not used to that.
Yeah, it can happen because your body needs a supply of glucose. And our brains can run on ketones, we can be fueled somewhat from ketones, but you have to transition over into that ketosis. And while you're transitioning, if the body's needing that glucose, it'll break down your muscle to get the amino acids that can convert into blood sugar. And a lot of people don't know that, that your actual muscle tissue will break down because certain amino acids the liver can convert to glucose to
Right.
get that blood sugar up in your bloodstream. So, yeah.
So I've explained probably 100 times of why I think, muscle breakdown is so dangerous, but I would love to hear you explain why would then, if I'm breaking down my muscle, why is that so dangerous?
Well, for one, the number one reason that people, the average person, cares about is you're breaking down that's your currency of your metabolism.
Yes.
You have to have muscle to keep a metabolic rate. Your muscle is more metabolically active. So every time you lose muscle, and it gets honestly then eventually replaced with fat.
Right.
And so you're doing the exact body composition change that you don't want.
Yes.
And now we're becoming an older, people live longer, and muscle's also been called the currency of aging.
Yes.
So you're as young as the muscle that you can keep on your body as you get older, because it keeps you from having, falling down easily and all kinds of things. So
Exactly.
people don't think of that, but nowadays 70 is not that old, 70,
Right.
71, 72. And you get that age and, you have a little trip and you can't hold yourself like you used to. Why would that be? Because you've lost too much muscle.
Right.
So you really have to protect against that as you
Right.
age. You have to exercise, eat adequate protein. And that's how you protect yourself. I mean, those
So-
are the main ways.
Explain your approach then when you're sitting with somebody. You've talked them out of the keto diet. What is your approach? Because, like you said, keto involves the breaking down the immune system and your gut, which I really, really have. Like I say, I've spent 2 shows on it trying to get into people's heads why gut is so important. So, What is your approach when you sit with somebody?
Well, we customize a carb amount. Okay, so that's really with ketogenic diet. What you're doing is you're decrease. Oh, and this brings up a really good point with me, Marianne.
Yeah.
There are medical ketogenic diets that are known medically useful diets. Okay, that's I learned about a medical ketogenic diet, and it wasn't labeled medical; it was just labeled ketogenic.
Right.
An actual ketogenic diet is a diet that will not allow more than 10% of your calories to come from carbohydrates, all sources of carbohydrates.
Right.
So that's your vegetables, your starchy foods, okay, and fruit. So forget about sweets.
Right.
Or
Breads.
0.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's so on an 1,800 calorie diet, that's 45 grams of carb. And so when we do ketogenic diets, we want people to have a lot of vegetables still.
Yes.
Because that's a way you can get in all those wonderfully beneficial plant phytonutrients that are disease preventive, that are anti-inflammatory.
Right.
If you follow information on an anti-inflammatory diet, what do? You cut out refined carbs, you replace them with your low glycemic, complex carbs, vegetables, some fruit. And when you have a grain, it should be whole grain, because those don't make the blood sugar go up real fast. And that is the most pro-inflammatory thing you can do to your
Absolutely.
body. Make your blood sugar raise like that all the time.
Absolutely.
Well, and then you got to make sure you get in fish, because you need those anti-inflammatory,
Omegas.
the omega-3 fatty acids. And so then here along comes ketogenic diet. So you take one aspect out. You're not eating pro-inflammatory refined carbs and sugars, because those are gone. If you're not a good fish eater, then you make sure you have to have fish oil.
Yes.
And a lot of people just eat beef. And the quality
that
of the
face
beef
'cause it's me.
matters.
I do.
Yeah, quality of it matters. So honestly, they've found, grass feeding,
Yes.
pasturing cows really helps. When you grain feed cows, they get all this more saturated fat, more
That's right.
cholesterol,
Right.
and way more omega-6 fatty acids, when they graze on grass, they actually, the beef contains some omega-3, not like fish, but some.
Yes.
So the quality of that beef matters. But then you take out that whole plant food component, you know, where you can hardly eat any. It's a couple of small vegetable servings, you know, maybe few berries, 1,800 calories. That's where I was going. If you eat 8 vegetable servings, which sounds like a lot, but it's only a half a cup, little half cup cooked, 1 cup raw. So think of 2 cups of, say, cooked green beans. That's easy to eat.
Right.
That's four servings and a large salad, you know, and that's your vegetables, right?
Right.
Well, then you have 2 servings for any other higher glycemic carb, like some fruit, which is also, think of it, a serving size is about a half a cup. A little half cup of fruit is not a lot.
It's not much.
And if you want a little teeny starch serving, again, like a 1/3 cup of rice, there's your 45 grams of carb.
That's not much.
Well, you know, a lot of people are doing ketogenic diets where they don't even eat that much carb. Right. They're more around 5% carb. So what happens? Well, you don't have any of the plant fibers to feed your beneficial flora in your gut. So this is crucial because now we're all, you know, most people have heard the term microbiome. Microbiome is what is living inside microorganisms, the mix of all the microorganisms living in your intestines, and primarily in the large intestine. And it turns out that those little buggers in there, or those critters, they're friendly, they help us, they do a lot of things for us. They need their food too.
Right.
Well, what is their food? Their food is fiber from plants. They break it down, and that's how they get their energy. That's how they get their fuel source. And as you know, as it moves along, their waste products, they create something called short chain fatty acids. And that is absorbed by our intestinal cells, and that is the preferred fuel source for your intestinal cells. Is that not amazing?
It is amazing.
You think about your intestinal cells needing their own type of fuel.
Right.
Think of them getting all their fuel like our other cells from the bloodstream, but they get it right there in the gut lumen, the opening. It's from the beneficial flora having adequate fiber.
Right.
So there's only about 2 grams of fiber in each vegetable or fruit serving. We need a minimum of 25 grams of fiber a day.
Yes.
Minimum. And in fact, we find people do a lot better if we can get them up to a good 45 or 50 grams.
Yep. Agreed.
And they've done studies of, like tribes in Africa and stuff. They eat 180 grams of fiber a day.
How did they do that? Wow. Oh my goodness.
It's amazing. So it's plant foods.
Yes.
So you really don't want to limit plant foods. And here's the interesting thing. The studies show you don't even need to be that low to lose weight.
Right.
You can lose weight in that 20 to 40% of your most people. Some people can't go as high as 40%. And that's where I got off on all this is we customize the carb amount to what the person can tolerate.
Right.
And how you know what you can tolerate is by monitoring your weight and your blood sugar.
And how active you are makes a difference, right? As to how many
Absolutely.
carbs.
The more active you are, the more carbs you can eat.
Absolutely.
We tell people you sort of earn the right to eat those carbs, you know.
Yeah.
You got to earn it. And we have a baseline diet that it's similar to Atkins. You can think of it as being sort of Atkins-esque, where we cut down to the only carbs are a lot of vegetables. So cooked and raw, your vegetables, and steamed or however you like to prepare them, and salads. A lot of different types of salads. Doesn't have to all be leafy green, But if those get you full, those are anti-inflammatory. And people always also tend to get confused on portion control.
Right.
Think, well, I got to watch my amount. Not on vegetables. Not on vegetables.
Exactly. That's not a problem. Vegetables are free.
Not getting any calories.
Right.
All you're doing is getting in more of that anti-inflammatory stuff that's really good for you.
As long as it doesn't have a lot of salad dressing or something on top of it, vegetables are free.
Well,
right.
Olive oil, neutral.
Yes.
There's no negative effect from olive oil.
Right.
So as long as an avocado oil is pretty good too.
Yes.
And so, you can have some salad dressing, but with the right kinds of oils. That's all the stuff that we have built into our little booklets that we put together for diet. And, it's all those little pieces and parts matter.
Yeah.
So if people hang on to, well, this is my favorite salad dressing from the store.
Yeah.
You look at the label and it's made with soybean oil or, some
common,
other like high omega-6 fat oil. And it has sugar in it.
Yes.
So you have to watch those things because those details can really matter. Because this is how the way we teach people to eat is the way you should eat. This is your lifetime.
Every day. This is not a diet. It's a lifestyle, right?
Yeah, this is how and when you do it right, this is what's great about it. Everybody wants that cheat day, right? Well, when you do this long enough, you'll get to a point where I dread cheat days. Like when I have to eat off my diet because we're traveling and it's too hard to, and then I feel bad, but you can have a cheat and you just return right back and you're fine.
Because you don't crave anymore. You're not just dying for that, load of carbohydrates. You just do it because you're off somewhere, but maintain your lifestyle. You really stop craving. I think that's a lot of people's problems.
You really do. Well, and that's the other
craving.
thing. If you find you have a lot of cravings, you have trouble controlling your hunger.
Yes.
You're probably a person that is in this gut-centric health.
Right.
Degradation of health.
And I want to spend some time on this, Laura. We're going to take a short break and come back on. I'm just listening. I'm absorbing all this, and time is getting by us. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I want to talk about that cravings and it being gut-centric, because that is probably the number one issue and problem that I get across the board from my patients asking about how to control that. So you would be a godsend in that department. So we're going to take a short break and come back on the other side and talk about it.
Okay.
Be back in a few.
Fatty liver is linked to two different situations, alcohol and diabetes or obesity. In both cases, patients can have no symptoms. In the United States, and in particular, Texas, the most common cause of liver disease in general is non-alcoholic fatty liver. Again, associated with overweight, obesity, and or diabetes. Additional risk factors include high cholesterol, high blood pressure, Hispanic ethnicity, and postmenopausal status. At Pinnacle Clinical Research, we offer a quick, non-invasive ultrasound-based screening assessment called FibroScan. This test is done at no cost to you, and we do not take insurance. The test will measure the fat and stiffness in your liver and stage your risk and development of fatty liver disease. You will meet with a provider immediately following your scan to go over your results. If you're interested in getting more information on your liver health, please call 210-982-0320 and schedule your FibroScan today. We are conveniently located in the Medical Center at 5109 Medical Drive.
Welcome back. I am talking to Laura LaValle today, who is a good friend of mine, but a registered and licensed dietitian. We are talking about, we spent some time on keto and why this is something that I really don't like doing, and she's in agreement. So also about patients who suffer from carb cravings and, night eating and stress eating and things like that. Is it possible to control those type of things? That's the number one question that I get.
It is. There's two things you need to do if you're suffering with the cravings. So I talked about the low refined carbs being anti-inflammatory, but those are foods that will keep food cravings going. And it's from a different physiologic reason. When we eat sugar, our body will overproduce insulin to try and get that, because that's a horrible thing to do to the body.
Right.
The body doesn't like that. Blood sugar going way up in the bloodstream. So your pancreas cranks out all kinds of insulin. And the insulin will start to get the blood sugar down. And most people, a lot of people will have some sort of overreaction. There's something called reactive hypoglycemia, which is what even got me into being a dietitian, because I had it very bad.
Yeah.
And I had to get that sugar out to survive, because when I got that overproduction of insulin, you could almost pass out.
Exactly.
Like weak, shaky, have to have somebody bring you something to eat to get it back up. Well, most people have that on a less pronounced level. So what will happen is the blood sugar will drop down lower than it should then, and all of a sudden you need to eat. You're like, where's the break room? Where's the donuts? Where's the vending machine?
Yes.
Or if working from home, where's chips or something quick? And so it keeps you eating all day long, because people will tend to go again for another quick carb, and they'll start that cycle all over again.
Exactly, vicious cycle.
So that's one of the things that people call craving. It's really not a craving. It's a physiological, it's a drop in your blood sugar.
Right.
You have to eat urgently to get it back. That's what creates a lot of that hangry that people talk about.
Yep.
And they can really get mean and irritable when that happens. I mean, I've had people almost getting a divorce, and we teach them about that, and it
solves
the problem.
Better than therapy.
We've had kids get kicked out of school almost because of it, because their behavior gets bad. So it's no small thing. So that's one. The other thing is take care of your gut health, because your intestinal cells are all specialized all along the way. They, there's different purposes, right? We absorb our amino acids here. We absorb our minerals here. We absorb our B vitamins here. When you get to the large intestine, there's all these important hormones that get made. Well, there's a real important hormone called PYY, peptide YY, and it shuts down hunger. And in fact, when I have people that say, I really never feel full, which is the opposite of some people. Some people are like, I'm really never that hungry. I don't even eat that much. That's a real shutdown thyroid. But if you have some thyroid function, but your gut is off, you'll just be like, I can't eat enough. Like, seriously, I just ate and I'm hungry again. That's because you're not getting that peptide YY from the intestine. I have had so many patients that we can get on top of those cravings by doing things to promote the gut health.
That is wonderful.
So make sure you get in that fiber. And a lot of times, and typically when people are in that category, what is going on is they have become, they've developed food allergies or food sensitivities. And that is a source of a lot of inflammation that is damaging to the cells in the gut, and literally will damage those very cells that you need to create all these hormones that we need that are help regulate hunger is one of the big purposes of them.
Right.
Because think about it, you've eaten, your food's traveled all the way through the stomach and the small intestine, it gets to the large intestine. It's such an ingenious design we have in our body. There are all these hormones that feed back to the brain to say, okay, we ate, we don't need to eat anymore.
Right.
But if you have all this inflammation and all this problem going on in the large intestine, you don't get that feedback to the brain.
Right.
And you develop leptin resistance. Leptin is really important for hunger management, but people are pumping out all kinds of leptin, but the cells aren't recognizing it. So everything gets real dysregulated, but you can get it back in control by the mix of foods that you eat and low allergen diet, that's probably one of the toughest things. It can be hard for people to learn to like vegetables, because a lot of people raised in the United States aren't raised eating vegetables.
Exactly. It's McDonald's.
Every package you can open and throw in the microwave. It's fast food.
Yeah.
And so if you have lettuce on your hamburger, that's your vegetable.
That's your vegetable. Yeah. Or your fries, your potato.
Government, counted the ketchup
Right.
As a vegetable.
Yeah. It's every child in America. Yes.
So, vegetables, we can usually get people there. Your taste,
Just start there.
in your mouth, your taste buds literally get used to certain flavors.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you eat broccoli and it's got that odd,
You have to get used to it again. Your body will.
Yeah. And so, I have people go ahead and put some sort of, butter if they can't have real butter. There are some healthier margarines now. They don't call it margarine anymore. They just call it spread. There's one I like in particular called Melt. It's organic and it's healthier oils. And go ahead and cover it up a little bit. Eventually, you won't need all of it. You have to eat something like 8 times for your tongue to even start to get used to being able to allow that in your mouth.
Exactly. You know what, Laura? We have hit that 7-minute mark. I'm listening to you. I wasn't even paying attention to the timer. That is, I'm just listening to you and loving every second of it. I want to know how people can get in touch with you, and I am going to put that on my website. If people can go to drpbetterlife.com, I'm going to have all of your information where you can be found, and then I'm going to highlight. So I am going to have you on again if you would be so honored as to come, because this is amazing information that needs to be out there.
Would. Yes.
But I wanted...
Keto.com, we have a place, and it's kind of front and center, where you can click to receive a free diet guide.
Good.
So I think we have one on sugar, learning how to get rid of sugar.
Yes.
My favorite one is the one on carbohydrate counting. That's a real, that is a great.
That is a great one. And you said metaboliccode.com, right?
Metaboliccode.com.
Okay.
Yes.
I will make sure
3 different options. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And you can say, somebody help me with diet, and they'll get that message to me.
You got it. I will make sure it is there. Laura, thank you. What an honor, as always. Please take care.
Thank you for having me on.
We will do it again.
Okay.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.